The alarm screamed in the middle of the night, but the single dad barely noticed it anymore. Years of broken sleep had turned mornings into a blur, and his body moved on autopilot as he carried his child into the kitchen. "Daddy, I'm hungry," the small voice said, pulling him fully awake. He knelt to make a quick breakfast, trying to hide his exhaustion, knowing that if he showed weakness, the child might worry. "I've got you, buddy." "Pancakes in a minute," he whispered, forcing a smile he didn't quite feel. Life had become a rhythm of exhaustion, work, and fleeting moments of joy, and he often wondered if it would ever feel like more than survival. Outside, the city moved on without him. Neon lights flickered across the wet streets as early commuters shuffled past. The janitorial closet at his night job smelled of disinfectant and bleach, but it was familiar, grounding. Every sweep of the mop, every emptied trash can, reminded him that he was keeping someone safe. He often imagined what life could be if the world noticed him for more than just his uniform and tired eyes. "You're up late," said a voice one morning as he passed the street cafe on his way to the subway. It belonged to a stranger, well-dressed, observing him with quiet curiosity. The single dad only shrugged, not wanting to explain that he hadn't slept in 2 nights. "Some of us notice people trying," the man said, and before he could respond, he was gone, leaving the dad with a strange warmth he hadn't felt in years. It was unsettling, yet comforting, like a nudge that maybe life had more to offer than endless routines and bills he couldn't pay. At home, breakfast finished, he carried his child to the small living room, their favorite blanket wrapped around them. "Do you think Daddy can get a better job someday?" the child asked, eyes wide with innocent hope. The dad laughed softly, ruffling their hair. "Maybe someday, buddy. Maybe someday," he said, even though he wasn't sure if someday would come before they ran out of patience or money. He wanted to be honest but couldn't crush the hope in the child's eyes. Hope had become a rare commodity, and he clung to every ounce of it. Later that day, at work, he moved through the office building silently, emptying bins, mopping floors, and fixing what no one else noticed. He had learned to become invisible, to fade into the background. But sometimes, moments of unnoticed heroism appeared. A spilled coffee in the lobby, a child's forgotten toy, a letter left behind, all small things that mattered to someone, even if no one thanked him. Today was no different, yet fate had other plans. While cleaning the executive lounge, he spotted a commotion near the large windows overlooking the city. A well-dressed man, unmistakably wealthy, stood staring at something below. The dad hesitated, curiosity tugging at him. The man's gaze was not casual, it was deliberate, sharp, and strangely personal. "Excuse me," the dad ventured. "Is everything okay?" The billionaire turned, his eyes meeting the dad's, and for a moment, the janitor felt naked, like every ounce of exhaustion and struggle was on display. The billionaire's lips curled into a faint, unreadable smile. "Yes, I've been watching," he said simply, and the words hung in the air like a secret. The dad stepped back, unsure how to respond. Watching him? It felt absurd, yet the intensity of the gaze suggested otherwise. He continued his work, but the memory of that glance lingered, unsettling and intriguing. Could someone in a world so far removed from his own notice him? Could someone care, or at least see him for who he really was? The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. Meanwhile, at home, the child was engrossed in drawing with crayons sprawled across the floor. "Daddy, look. It's you and me flying to the moon," the child exclaimed, holding up a messy but heartwarming drawing. The dad crouched beside them, genuine laughter spilling out despite fatigue. "We make a pretty good team, huh?" he said. The child nodded eagerly. In those small, shared moments, the chaos of the world outside faded. Here, they were enough. Here, they were invincible, even if only for a few minutes. The iconic mean kid, the neighborhood oddball with a knack for appearing at the strangest times, suddenly popped up at the window. "Need a hand?" he shouted, jumping over the low fence with an impossible grin. The dad shook his head, half exasperated, half amused. "I'm fine," he called, though he secretly welcomed the distraction. The mean kid's energy was chaotic, unpredictable, but it brought a spark of levity the father hadn't realized he needed. "Well, you'll see me anyway," the kid shouted before disappearing down the street, leaving the dad and child in a fit of giggles. That night, as the city lights flickered outside their small apartment, the dad finally collapsed onto the couch, child tucked into his chest. He felt the weight of exhaustion pressing down, but also a strange flicker of hope. The billionaire's curious gaze, the child's innocence, the mean kid's wild energy, they all converged in a way that suggested something was about to change. Maybe it was chance, or maybe life had finally decided to pay attention. The dad drifted into a shallow sleep, one hand resting on the child's small back, dreaming of a world that seemed impossible yet tantalizingly close. Somewhere far above the streets he scrubbed each night, the billionaire observed quietly, calculating, assessing. The dad had no idea his life was about to intersect with wealth, influence, and unexpected opportunities, nor that the chaos of a single child's imagination and a mean kid's antics would push him toward a future he had never dared to imagine. Morning arrived, and with it, a quiet determination in the dad's chest. He rose, carried his child to the breakfast table, and promised, "Today, we keep moving forward, one step at a time." Outside, the city buzzed with life, indifferent yet somehow aligned with the small family's journey. The stage was set, the players in place, and the story of exhaustion, hope, humor, and unexpected connections had only just begun. The day began with an uneasy mix of excitement and fear. The single dad could hardly believe the call he received that morning. The billionaire wanted to meet him properly, to talk about something that sounded important. He had spent years navigating the margins of society, invisible and tired, and now someone with unimaginable wealth was asking for his attention. He paced the small apartment with his child trailing behind, who chattered excitedly about pancakes and superheroes, entirely oblivious to the adult anxieties swirling in the room. "Daddy, will we see the shiny place today?" the child asked, eyes bright. The dad chuckled, ruffling hair that smelled faintly of crayons. "Yeah, buddy, we're going to see something new," he said, trying to mask the tension in his voice. The commute to the billionaire's penthouse was surreal. Skyscrapers gleamed like glass towers reaching toward the clouds, and the streets buzzed with energy that made the dad feel both alive and invisible at the same time. He held the child's hand tightly, afraid of letting go, afraid of what this new world demanded of him. Stepping into the lobby, he felt the chill of polished marble and the soft echo of footsteps, a reminder that this environment was designed to impress, to intimidate, to separate the powerful from the ordinary. The billionaire met them with a calm but piercing presence. He studied the dad as if scanning for weaknesses and strengths all at once, noting the careful patience with which he managed his child, the subtle gestures of thoughtfulness, and the quiet dignity beneath the threadbare clothes. "I've watched you for a while," he said, his voice measured. "I see what others ignore. I see what you endure." The dad swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. He wasn't used to praise from anyone, least of all someone with so much. "I thank you," he said finally, and it felt inadequate. But the billionaire didn't seem to need words. His observation alone carried weight, a silent acknowledgement that made the dad's chest tighten. The first challenge came almost immediately. The billionaire invited him into the world of high-stakes business meetings, networking, and endless etiquette. Every conversation felt like a test, every glance a judgment. The dad stumbled over terms and formalities, feeling clumsy and out of place, but he refused to hide or lie. "I'm just me," he said quietly to himself, adjusting his tie that felt far too expensive. His child, meanwhile, explored the luxurious apartment with wide-eyed wonder, pointing at strange gadgets and unusual furniture. Daddy, look. The chair moves by itself. The dad laughed, a genuine, warm sound that cut through the tension, and the billionaire, observing quietly, allowed a faint smile to break the otherwise serious demeanor. Lunch arrived with an almost theatrical presentation, and the dad struggled to adapt. But he noticed small things, how the staff treated the billionaire, the subtle codes of behavior, the unspoken rules of power, and he absorbed them like a sponge, all while keeping his child entertained with silly games and stories. The billionaire watched, intrigued, noting that the dad's authenticity never wavered even under pressure. Most people change when they enter this world, he said later, almost to himself. He does not. That observation planted a seed of respect that would grow quietly over the coming days. Meanwhile, the iconic meme kid proved to be an unexpected wild card. He somehow appeared during a security demonstration, leaping over barriers with ridiculous ease, and immediately distracted everyone with antics that ranged from humorous to chaotic. "Hey, look at this," he shouted, dangling upside down from a chandelier. The child laughed uncontrollably, the dad groaned, and the billionaire raised an eyebrow, bemused and slightly impressed. The chaos, strangely, humanized the dad further. It revealed the layers of patience, humor, and resilience that no formal meeting could ever test. As the afternoon progressed, the dad faced a moral test that neither he nor the billionaire expected. A staff member had mismanaged a delivery, causing a minor but potentially embarrassing incident. Most in the room would have shifted blame or stayed silent, but the dad stepped forward, taking responsibility and seeking a solution. His humility and honesty stood out like a beacon in a world often governed by appearances and advantage. The billionaire observed quietly, nodding to himself, recognizing the integrity that had carried the dad through sleepless nights and endless struggle. "Character," he muttered, "it matters more than wealth." By evening, the dad felt drained but exhilarated. He had navigated a world he never imagined, held his ground with grace, and protected the innocence of his child despite overwhelming odds. The child, exhausted from excitement and laughter, clung to him as they prepared to leave. "Daddy, that place is amazing. Can we come back?" The dad hugged the small frame tightly. "We'll see, buddy. We'll see." His heart swelled with a mixture of pride, fear, and hope. Later that night, the family returned home to their modest apartment, and the contrast between worlds hit the dad fully. He prepared a simple dinner, the child chattering about flying chairs and magical lights, while he replayed the day in his mind. The billionaire's curiosity, the tests, the observations, they all weighed heavily on him. Yet beneath the weight, a spark of possibility glimmered. Maybe life could be different. Maybe someone powerful could see him, not for what he lacked, but for who he truly was. As the dad tucked the child into bed, he whispered, "We're doing okay, buddy. One day at a time." The child smiled sleepily, unaware of the magnitude of the day, but the dad felt the significance. Somewhere in that world of wealth and scrutiny, he had made an impression, and it was real. The iconic meme kid, unpredictable and wild, had also left his mark, reminding the dad that humor, chaos, and human connection were forces that no wealth could replace. Finally, alone for a moment, the dad sat by the window, gazing at the city lights. Exhaustion pressed against him, but so did determination. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities. He didn't know where this journey would lead, but for the first time in years, he felt seen, understood, and quietly hopeful. The billionaire's world had not swallowed him. It had challenged him, and he had survived with dignity intact. Somewhere in the distance, the meme kid's laughter echoed faintly in the alley below, a reminder that life could be chaotic, unpredictable, and strangely perfect. The dad smiled, thinking maybe we're exactly where we're supposed to be. The following days tested the single dad in ways he had never anticipated. The billionaire's world, dazzling and overwhelming, demanded patience, intelligence, and emotional endurance. and every interaction felt like walking a tightrope. Small mistakes were magnified, yet so were small victories, and the dad learned to navigate with a mixture of caution and courage. Each morning began with his child tugging at his sleeve, asking the same hopeful question. "Daddy, what will we do today?" The dad answered with a smile, though inside he wrestled with doubt. "We'll figure it out, buddy. Together," he said, holding the small hand that kept him grounded amidst the dizzying chaos of wealth and power. The billionaire's tests became more subtle. He observed not just decisions and etiquette, but reactions to unexpected challenges. One day, a sudden power outage plunged the building into darkness, sending staff into panic. The dad remained calm, guiding his child through the shadows, improvising solutions, and reassuring others. "It's okay, we'll manage," he said, his voice steady. The billionaire watched from the background, intrigued by this ordinary man whose resolve shone brighter than any chandelier or polished floor. It was a silent confirmation that character was not something bought, it was forged. Meanwhile, the iconic mean kid's presence added an unpredictable layer to every day. He appeared in the most inconvenient moments, slipping through security to perform outrageous stunts, yet somehow exposing hidden truths. During a boardroom meeting, the kid projected a small, ridiculous skit on the presentation screen, causing a mix of laughter and exasperation. The dad, mortified yet amused, managed to redirect the situation, calming both the child and the staff while keeping dignity intact. The billionaire, quietly observing, allowed a faint smile. Humor, chaos, and adaptability, qualities he rarely saw in this polished environment, were on full display, and the dad embodied them without losing his essence. The emotional stakes rose sharply when the child wandered into an unfamiliar part of the building, chasing after a playful cat the mean kid had somehow brought inside. Panic surged through the dad's chest. "Stay where I can see you," he shouted, sprinting through hallways unfamiliar and alien. The child froze momentarily, eyes wide, while the dad scooped them up and held them tightly, heart hammering. "It's okay, buddy. I've got you," he whispered, rocking slightly to calm both his own fear and the child's trembling. The billionaire, witnessing from a distance, noted the father's instinctive courage, the unwavering prioritization of another life over his own comfort or reputation. Moments of vulnerability emerged as the dad allowed himself to be seen beyond the facade of competence. One evening, sitting in the billionaire's private library, he confessed quietly, "I never thought someone like me could belong here. I feel out of place, but I want to do right by my kid." The billionaire studied him carefully, expression unreadable. "Belonging isn't about money or status," he said. "It's about truth, integrity, and courage. You have all three." The dad felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years, the kind that comes not from material comfort, but from being understood. Amid the tension, humor provided brief relief. The iconic meme kid staged small interventions, turning mundane tasks into absurd adventures. Laundry became an obstacle course, elevators a theater for dramatic entrances, and the child laughed with abandon, blissfully unaware of the underlying lessons. The dad, simultaneously exhausted and entertained, realized that joy was not incidental, it was survival. These chaotic moments, though frustrating at times, revealed resilience, patience, and the power of human connection in ways no structured lesson could. Conflict deepened when an unexpected miscommunication threatened to ruin the dad's reputation in the billionaire's eyes. A misfiled document and a misinterpreted comment caused tension, leaving him worried that all he had earned would evaporate. He retreated to a quiet corner with the child, admitting in a soft voice, "I don't know if I can fix this." The child, sensing the fear but not fully understanding, offered a small hand. "Daddy, we can do it together." The dad smiled, drawing courage from this simple truth. With steady patience, clear communication, and an appeal to honesty, he corrected the misunderstanding, earning quiet acknowledgement from the billionaire. It was a lesson in humility, resilience, and the power of owning mistakes with grace. Through these trials, the bond between father and child deepened in ways the dad hadn't anticipated. Shared laughter, whispered encouragement, and protective instincts strengthened their connection, providing emotional armor against the world's pressures. Each night, returning to their modest apartment, the dad reflected on the day's events, the lessons learned, and the unpredictable forces, wealth, chaos, humor that intersected in his life. He felt exhaustion, yes, but also a profound sense of growth and awareness. As the chapter progressed, the billionaire began to shift. Observing not just the dad's actions but his underlying motivations, he recognized a rare blend of humility, courage, and authenticity. The dad had navigated a world designed to test, challenge, and intimidate, and he had done so without compromising his values. Respect grew quietly, a mutual acknowledgement that transcended social status, bridging worlds that otherwise seemed incompatible. By the end of the chapter, the dad faced a personal reckoning. A choice loomed: cling to familiar routines of struggle and survival, or embrace the unknown opportunities this new world offered. He realized that growth required risk, and that protecting his child meant sometimes stepping beyond the boundaries of comfort. The iconic meme kid, ever chaotic, seemed to sense the gravity of the moment, orchestrating a final playful disruption that reminded everyone, including the billionaire, that life was unpredictable, full of laughter and lessons intertwined. Sitting with the child that night, the dad whispered, "Tomorrow is another day. We'll face it together, no matter what comes." The child, exhausted but happy, pressed their forehead against his chest, trusting completely. The dad felt a swell of emotion, a mixture of pride, fear, and hope, and understood that even in a world of wealth, scrutiny, and challenge, the love he shared with his child remained the most powerful anchor. For the first time, he saw that endurance, courage, and authenticity could carve a place in any world, no matter how foreign it seemed. Outside, the city pulsed with life, indifferent yet somehow aligned with the father and child's journey. The billionaire observed quietly from a distance, acknowledging the subtle power of resilience and heart. The dad, exhausted and humbled, finally allowed himself to rest, knowing that the path ahead would demand even more courage, but also promised the possibility of growth, connection, and the unexpected joys of being fully seen. The morning light seeped through the small apartment window, painting the single dad and his child in soft gold. The previous days had been a whirlwind of challenges, lessons, and small victories, but today promised a reckoning. The billionaire had called, requesting the dad's presence at a critical event, a test not of skills but of character and heart. The dad's chest tightened as he prepared, worry and anticipation swirling together. "Daddy, will it be scary?" the child asked, eyes wide with both excitement and concern. He knelt, brushing a stray lock of hair from their forehead. "Not scary, buddy. Just new. And I'll be with you the whole time." The child nodded, trusting him completely, unaware of the enormity of what lay ahead. Arriving at the venue, the dad felt the weight of expectation pressing down. The billionaire's world shimmered with opulence, every detail meticulously curated to impress and test. Staff moved silently, eyes sharp and assessing, while guests whispered and glanced with subtle judgment. The dad held his child close, feeling both vulnerable and resolute. He had navigated this world before, but now stakes were higher. A single misstep could undo the fragile trust he had built. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "We've got this, buddy. Together," he murmured. The event's challenge came suddenly. A minor accident, a toppled display, and startled attendees threatened chaos. Guests murmured and staff froze, unsure how to respond. The dad acted instinctively, guiding his child out of harm's way and helping correct the mishap calmly and efficiently. Every gesture, every word, reflected patience, courage, and integrity. The billionaire observed quietly, his expression unreadable but attentive. For the first time, the dad felt fully aware that his actions were more than just practical. They were a testament to the values he had upheld through sleepless nights, long shifts, and personal struggle. Then, unpredictably, the iconic mean kid made his entrance, as chaotic and unpredictable as ever. He darted across the room, disrupting tension with humor that was both ridiculous and oddly insightful. Guests laughed nervously, some irritated, some charmed, but the dad saw the opportunity beneath the chaos. With careful guidance, he channeled the kids' energy into playful demonstrations that lightened the atmosphere and revealed the absurdity of rigid expectations. Laughter rippled through the room, and even the billionaire allowed a brief, genuine smile. It was a lesson in perspective. Humor, unpredictability, and human connection were forces no wealth or power could suppress. Amid the commotion, a subtle test emerged. A guest accused the dad of causing the earlier mishap, assuming he was negligent because of his background. The dad could have argued, deflected, or retreated, but instead he spoke calmly and honestly. "It was an accident, but I helped fix it immediately," he said, "I steady and sincere." His words were simple, but their authenticity carried weight. The billionaire, observing closely, nodded imperceptibly. Integrity had triumphed over perception, patience over panic, and the dad had proven not only competence but character. The child, sensing tension, held tightly to his father's hand. "Daddy, you're amazing," the small voice whispered. The dad smiled, swallowing a lump in his throat. "We're amazing together," he replied, feeling the profound truth of those words. The moment crystallized everything he had learned. Strength was not measured by wealth, skill, or status, but by love, courage, and the ability to remain true in moments of chaos. As the event drew to its climax, a final challenge emerged, a symbolic gesture of trust from the billionaire. He invited the dad to lead a small presentation, a simple demonstration of problem-solving and empathy in front of the assembled guests. Heart-pounding, the dad accepted, guiding the child through a demonstration that combined clarity, humility, and warmth. Laughter, applause, and acknowledgement filled the room. The billionaire approached afterward, placing a hand lightly on the dad's shoulder. "You've exceeded every expectation," he said quietly, "not because you adapted to my world, but because you remained your world." The dad felt a rush of relief, pride, and gratitude he hadn't known in years. The iconic mean kid, sensing the gravity of the moment, performed one last chaotic stunt, a playful, absurd flourish that drew laughter and applause. It was the perfect punctuation, reminding everyone that even in a world of wealth, influence, and high stakes, joy, spontaneity, and human connection were irreplaceable. The child giggled uncontrollably, clutching the dad's arm, and the father laughed too, allowing himself to fully release the tension he had carried for days. That evening, as the dad and child returned to their modest apartment, the contrast between the two worlds struck him deeply. He thought of polished floors, gleaming chandeliers, and whispered judgments, and then of quiet breakfasts, crayon drawings, and the simple, irreplaceable bond he shared with his child. He realized that while wealth and opportunity offered new paths, the true foundation of life lay in love, integrity, and courage. He had navigated two worlds and discovered that authenticity could bridge any gap. Sitting beside the child as they drifted to sleep, the dad whispered, "We made it, buddy. And no matter what happens next, we'll face it together." The child murmured in response, barely conscious, and snuggled closer. The dad let out a long, tired breath, allowing himself a rare moment of peace. For years, he had lived in exhaustion and uncertainty, but now he felt the warmth of recognition, accomplishment, and the subtle promise of stability. In the days that followed, the billionaire's respect became tangible. He offered guidance, opportunities, and mentorship, not as charity, but as recognition of character and perseverance. The dad, though still cautious and humble, began to envision a future that had once seemed impossible. He saw that endurance, honesty, and love were forces that could transform even the most challenging circumstances. The iconic meme kid continued to appear unpredictably, reminding him that life would always be chaotic, humorous, and beautifully unpredictable. By the chapter's close, the father and child had carved a new rhythm. The child's laughter filled the apartment, the dad's resolve strengthened, and a quiet understanding blossomed. Wealth, power, and chaos were temporary, but love, courage, and integrity endured. The billionaire had become more than an observer. He was a mentor, a witness to a life defined by perseverance and heart. And the dad, once exhausted and invisible, finally understood that he was seen, valued, and capable of shaping a future beyond his wildest dreams. That night, the city lights shimmered outside their window, indifferent yet somehow aligning with the journey of a small father and child. The dad held the child close, whispering, "We're ready for whatever comes next, buddy." The child smiled in sleep, and the dad felt a swell of hope, a certainty that despite chaos, exhaustion, or challenge, they were exactly where they needed to be. Humor, love, courage, and resilience, their story had only just begun, and it was brighter than he had ever imagined.